Formula One stewards often find themselves making headlines when they've handed out penalties that haven't gone down well with the fans. And whilst a lot of people would love to see battles settled on the track, and perhaps think that F1 would benefit from having a much thinner rulebook, there will always be contentious moments in sport, no matter how black and white the regulations are. So it's the nature of any sport that someone has to referee the rules and enforce them as fairly as possible. But who are the F1 key officials? What do they do, and how are they chosen? Before we get into today's video, a reminder that if you like the video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe for more videos. Right, let's get into the explainer. On any given Grand Prix weekend, there are a number of race officials whose job it is to oversee the proceedings, uphold the rules, and ensure everyone, from the drivers to the fans, are kept safe while the cars are on track. Some of these are permanent officials who are there at every race, and these include the race director and permanent starter, whilst others rotate depending on the location of the race. So what do the officials and stewards do? At the very top is the race director, who has the overriding authority in a number of areas during a Grand Prix weekend, and works very closely with the clerk of the course to give out orders. F1's current race director is Michael Massey, or Mikey if you're Toto Wolff.
Michael, blue flags. Michael, this guy makes us lose the position.
Who took over the role in 2019 after the sudden death of Charlie Whiting. The race director controls practice, qualifying and the race, making sure the timetable is followed properly. If necessary, the race director can propose change to the timetable, for example if heavy rain delays a session or if a barrier needs fixing. He decides if red flags are brought out to bring sessions to a halt, deploys the safety car and the virtual safety car, and instructs lapped cars to overtake, among many other responsibilities. Next up we have the permanent starter, which used to be overseen by Charlie Whiting, but it became a role in its own right when Christian Brill took up position when Whiting's various duties were separated. The permanent starter's job is to oversee start procedures at the beginning of the race. This involves activating the lights out sequence once all cars have lined up on the grid, and making sure that standing starts are completed safely. Then we have the clerk of the course, who's usually local to the location of the Grand Prix, and is the point of contact between race control and the track workers to inform them of what the race director has decided. Then, for every Grand Prix, a panel of stewards is appointed. It's their job to deliberate cases and make decisions based on F1's rulebook and the FIA's own sporting codes. 3 of the stewards, one of whom will be appointed a chairman, are nominated by the FIA from the international pool, who hold the necessary FIA super license. Another steward is nominated by the race's own national sporting authority, which also proposes the clerk of the course. Then there is the driver steward, who is there to ensure that the driver's point of view is taken into consideration when it comes to ruling on incidents. Famous names to have taken on the role of the last decade include former Tyrrell and Williams driver Derek Daly, 9 times Le Mans winner Tom Christiansen, 5 times Le Mans winner Emmanuel Perrault, ex-F1 driver and former president of the British Racing Drivers Club Derek Warwick, 5-time 500cc motorcycle champion Mick Doohan, as well as Formula One champions Emerson Fittipaldi, Alan Jones and Nigel Mansell. In 2020, Vincenzo Liuzzi and Johnny Herbert were among the F1 drivers to fulfil the role, while Vitaly Petrov, controversially appointed for the Portuguese Grand Prix in the aftermath of remarks about Lewis Hamilton's anti-racism stance, stepped down from his duties after the death of his father. Stewards have access to hundreds of camera angles, live data, team radio messages, and much more to help make decisions, but that hasn't stopped them from being at the heart of some of the most controversial moments throughout the history of the series. The 1984 Monaco Grand Prix is a prime example, when Ayrton Senna, with a blinding drive in the pouring rain, looks set to take the win from Alain Prost. The Frenchman, who was nursing a brake problem, began to wave furiously at the officials in the pit lane to have the race red flagged. Clerk of the course, Jackie Ickx, duly did so at the end of lap 32, and although Senna passed the slowing Prost before the finish line, it was Prost who was awarded victory based on the standings of the lap before. He would go on to lose the championship by just half a point to Niki Lauda. One of F1's stranger race outcomes occurred at the British Grand Prix in Silverstone in 1998. When with 2 laps to go, Schumacher, with a comfortable lead, was handed a 10-second penalty for overtaking behind the safety car. Unsure of whether the penalty should be taken as a stop-go or would be added to his finish time, Ferrari called Schumacher into the pits on the final lap. But as Ferrari's pit box was stationed beyond the checkered flag point, the German finished the race in the pit lane before serving his time. McLaren protested the result, and at a full hearing of the FIA's International Court of Appeal, it was decided that the stewards that day had made several mistakes, including issuing the penalty too late. Schumacher was allowed to keep his 4th win of the season. And who can forget Canada 2019, when Sebastian Vettel was stripped of victory at the Canadian Grand Prix? After the German briefly lost control of his Ferrari at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the stewards decided that the way he rejoined the track had unfairly impeded Lewis Hamilton, and although the Briton had been unable to overtake, the 5-second penalty given to Vettel ensured that Hamilton only had to keep pace with his rival to take victory. In protest after the race, Vettel marched up to the number boards in Parc Fermé, dumped the 2nd place marker in front of Hamilton's Mercedes, and put the 1st place board in front of the empty space where his own Ferrari, parked up at the end of the pit lane, should have been, much to the delight of the nearby fans. It seems that even though practices have improved considerably since the early days of the championship, F1 stewards still divide opinion with their decisions. What are your opinions on the F1 stewarding process, and what would you like to see in the future? Let us know in the comments below, and a reminder to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thanks, and see you next time.